Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where we bring you insights and expertise from industry leaders and experts. And in today's episode, we're going to be joined by Rod Cope, CTO of Perforce Software, a company that provides software development tools to build complex digital products faster and with higher quality. And he has a wealth of experience when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. And as someone that's been on both sides of the process and having been acquired himself by Perforce, Rod has incredibly valuable insights to share on how tech leaders can eliminate friction and successfully move past that uncertainty of an acquisition. And in our conversation today, Rod's going to share his advice for tech leaders on both sides of an M&A. So buckle up and hold on tight, because it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to the US, where Rod is going to join me today and discuss how tech leaders can better prepare for mergers and acquisitions and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
So I'm Rod Cope. I'm CTO at Perforce Software, a DevOps at scale company. I lead our office of the CTO, so I have a team of CTOs and their teams report to me. I also run our virtual AI and machine learning team, our architecture review board, our open source review board. I work on patents and intellectual property. And of course, for this show, I spend a lot of time on M&A. I've been acquired a bunch of times. I've evaluated and done diligence and acquired dozens of companies. And previously to Perforce, I've worked at IBM, separately at IBM Global Services, General Electric, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I was CTO and founder of OpenLogic, which is a company in the open source space that's now part of the Perforce portfolio. And finally, I have a master's degree in software engineering, and I live in Colorado with my wife and dogs on our little 35-acre ranch outside of Denver.
Oh man, there's so much going on there. I've got to take you back before all of that. Can you remember what lit the spark in you, where that passion for tech came from, or something that would put you on this path you're on today?
Yeah, I guess it goes back to playing, this will date me, but playing things like Space Invaders in arcade and Atari 2600 and all that fun stuff. And I kind of wanted to know how that stuff worked. I was very interested in it. So I wrote my first program when I was 10 years old. I think it was in BASIC, print Rod is cool, 20 go to 10, and it just filled the screen with Rod is cool. I thought that was pretty amazing. So I got the bug, and I knew almost right away I wanted to do this for my living and career. And I think by the time I was 12, I was trying to figure out how I could become a CTO. Although I didn't know that was what it was called at that point. That's pretty much always what I wanted to do. I guess I've been pretty lucky in that regard.
Well, I think you must be my twin brother from another mother, because I too fell into this from the Atari 2600 days. That beautiful wooden veneer finish on the front of the console was something special. As was doing the 1500 meters in the Olympic Games there. But also, I used to go, whenever my parents took me for the weekly food shop and there was all the computer section, I always used to go to that section and write 10 print, Neil is cool, 20, go to 10, and then get a little kick out of seeing these computers in stores there just saying Neil is cool down just the fact that we typed the exact same thing. We had all that technology at our hands, and that's what we decided to put.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we're probably not the only ones then.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, that path would lead you to Perforce, where you build complex digital products faster and with higher quality. But can you tell me more about the story behind the company and some of the problems you set out to solve with technology?
Yeah, so we're really all about solving the hardest problems in DevOps. So we tend to find niches where there's a lot of complexity, or like, for example, really high scalability needs, or extreme performance requirements, or strong security needs, something like that. So we have, products like Helix Core, or version control system that scales to petabytes and tens of thousands of users on the system. We have things like API management with Akana that has single customers that do tens of billions of dollars per year of business through that platform. So extreme measures of scale and performance. We have, for example, our math in AI type library, INMSL, used in a lot of the trading systems in Wall Street and other places around the world, because you need high reliability and nanosecond type performance. So where we find those kind of extreme needs is where we really excel.
And one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was, as you said there, Perforce Software has acquired 11 companies in the last 6 years. So I've got to ask, what have been the biggest lessons that you've learned as someone that has been on both sides of merger and acquisition?
So for a company like Perforce, we're a combination of organic and inorganic growth. I mean, we build and grow our own products over time, invest in what we have, and we acquire, quite a bit. And it's the profitability of the products in the portfolio that really fuel the growth and make it possible for us to acquire other companies. I think, and we'll probably talk about this later as well, I think on the companies trying to get acquired, they have an exit plan and they kind of build early on, okay, how do we get sold? I think that's kind of the wrong way to think about it. Because if you start building early on to be sold, you're going to do some unnatural things for the business and you'll be measuring the wrong things. I think it's really important to build a business for longevity, treat your customers well, find a good product market fit, have good support. Fundamentals are what matters. If you do that, you're going to have a good business and you're going to have a good outcome. You won't really have to, bend over backwards to get ready for sale. Things will take care of themselves. I think that's pretty important to know. I think there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt in M&A on both sides, especially until you've been through it a few times. You really just don't know what you don't know. And that can be scary. So, a company being acquired, a lot of times we're very nervous. They want answers right away. Like the acquiring company is omniscient and knows exactly what to do at all points in time instantly. And that's just not true, right? We're all people. There's a lot of learning to do and getting up to speed on what are your products, what are your markets, who are your customers, where do we need to make improvements? I think a lot of companies that are small, especially startups, growing quickly, have a good idea, tend to have a lot of experiments, go off in different directions, and focus is a big challenge. So I think a lot of what you can bring to bear from the acquiring side is, hey, let's concentrate on what works, step on the gas there, or apply more electrons, I guess would be the more appropriate analogy today. To go faster, do more, be more efficient with what's working, as opposed to kind of throwing a bunch of stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks, which is easy to do when you're a small company trying to make your way.
100% sound advice there. And for any tech leaders that are listening that are maybe on the verge of approaching an M&A there, how can tech leaders better prepare when acquiring or even merging with another organisation? Is any advice or tips or insights you can share around the best ways of preparing for that?
I think embracing change is really what it's all about on both sides.
Yeah.
So if you're being acquired, you got to expect, in most cases, there's going to be some change. Now, some acquirers, depending on the size of your company, depending on what they want to do, might say, well, we're going to run you as an independent unit, and you kind of do exactly what you're doing today. That's relatively rare, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd say it's much more common to say, okay, how do we fit you into what we're doing? And that probably means we've got to fit your organization structure into ours. And so that means taking time and understanding who are the personalities involved. And then there's going to be change. Some people are more comfortable with that change and some people aren't. And so I think with every acquisition, you get people on the company being acquired side people that will just kind of leave immediately because they don't really want to go through that process and they wait to see what it's like. They're like, okay, I've been waiting for this moment. We had our exit. I need to go do something else. I would say my advice would be give it a little time because you've got an opportunity to do something new, maybe learn some new ways of doing things, maybe some improvements. I think you can learn a lot from a company that is good at acquiring other companies because we have the benefit of seeing lots of ways things are done and we can learn from those and kind of pick and choose best practices. So every time we acquire a company, we looked at, what's working? What are you doing better than what we do today that we can take advantage of and leverage and roll out across Perforce? So if you're being acquired, see it as a learning opportunity before you make any quick decisions. What can I learn to do better for myself in my career, as well as what I can do for my company that's being acquired? So I would kind of caution, take a little time, embrace change, and prepare your teams for that same opportunity and the change that's coming.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little research on this, and I learned that it takes around, at least 2 years before companies fully integrate to the extent of becoming that joint us that we're talking about here. So can you share any insights around that? Because it's not something that happens quickly, is it?
No, and that's exactly the same number I've come up with for myself and in my career of acquiring companies as well. It's 2 years, but that's 2 years if you're putting in continuous effort.
Yeah.
If you don't, then it will never happen. And I've got friends that have been acquired, 15 years on. It's still us versus them, and they still use our own company name versus the bigger company. So it's 2 years if you put the work into it. And it was tough during COVID, I can say, because face-to-face makes a big difference. And if you can't get to the company you acquire, go on their turf, do town halls, let them ask anything they want, be transparent. So you've got some skin in the game, that we're all on the same team. If you can't do that, it takes even longer. So I'd say, put in the effort to get past us versus them. And it can be small things like the signage, put the new company name where everybody can see it. Company swag, man, it goes a long way to have coffee mugs and hoodies and, all that kind of, so it's just, you're just constantly reinforcing, this is the name, this is us, this is we, this is our brand, this is, our competition. So reinforce. And I think it's important to correct speech, at least early on for a while, even in meetings and things, because you'll hear it all the time. Company that's acquired, it's, they are doing this. Wait, there's no they, it's just us. We're all on the same team now, guys. Let's row in the same direction. So if you do that and you constantly reinforce, maybe even set up, okay, you've got competitors, that's them, right? We, us, our on the same team versus the competition is them. The faster you can do that and get everybody talking in that language, the better communication gets, the more people feel comfortable reaching out to their new colleagues in both directions, the better things go all around for the entire company.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? The power of swag. I've seen people at tech conferences, just a mug, a USB keyring or anything. People go crazy for that stuff, don't they?
Absolutely. And it's a little psychological thing that says, this is me.
Yeah, 100%. And can you also offer any insights around how to eliminate friction to successfully move past that uncertainty of an acquisition? We all go through that change curve in any stressful situation, but the uncertainty of an acquisition, is there any other ways of reducing that friction?
Yeah, it takes if you're on the acquiring side, you're buying another company, you've got to expect to put in a little bit of quick effort into doing it as quickly as possible. You won't get it perfect. It never is, but learn as fast as you can, spend as much time face to face with people as you can, get them involved especially the leadership, thinking in terms of, okay, here's how we go forward together. You figure it out. You make whatever changes that you need to make as soon as you can. You signal the all clear so that everybody in the acquired company knows, okay, I can take a breath now. The big changes are done. Let's start focusing on the positive. Because I find a lot of acquisitions are in distress of some kind, right? Maybe they're going too much. Maybe they've got challenges with efficiency, whatever it is, they probably need some help. And so I think it can help to bring some stability, some focus, some united shared goals that are achievable and everybody believes they're attainable. I think that's important. I would also try to keep the first year simple and straightforward for the company being acquired. I wouldn't try to introduce a lot of new moving parts. Like, for example, don't try to change all their systems and workflows and everything at once. Well, never if you can get away with it. But if you've got some things that need to be changed, you can phase some of those in, except for communication. I think it's important to get things like email and Slack and those kinds of things moved over, and document sharing as quickly as possible, because communication is really key. I'd say over communicate. If you have to err on one side or another, it's way better to show up and have too many town hall meetings and too many face-to-face meetings than it is the other way, because people will fill the gaps very quickly with FUD. If they don't hear from you for a week, they're like, okay, the sky is falling, right? There will be people who think like that. So constant contact is key.
And of course, we're talking about your insights here, how to do things the right way from everything that you've learned and your experience. But as somebody that obviously spends time in this space and observes what others do, what are the biggest mistakes that you may have seen leaders make over the years? Or are there any myths about M&As that we can just finally lay to rest today?
Well, I'd say that those fit together pretty well in one particular case. You won't go public, period.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, yeah, you might be that rare exception, but don't count on it. I've seen too many businesses that have made promises, even to their own employees. Hey, we're going to go public. Look at all the things we're going to do. That's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly rare. And if you set the expectation and then don't meet it, you lose a huge amount of trust from your own employee base, and that's hard to recover from. I think making statements like that also puts a lot of pressure, again, to do unnatural type things with the business. You're planning for such rapid expansion or growth that you can lose sight of what's important. So I'd say try to focus. Don't have lots of experiments that won't pan out, but double down where things work. Saying no is the hardest thing to do. I'd say, biggest mistakes leaders make, saying yes to too many things. It's hard to say no. You want to show enthusiasm. You're a team player. You're excited. Yes, these are great opportunities. Look at this new space, this new product, this new customer, whatever it is. But until you're absolutely crushing it with the core of your business, what you're built to do, where everybody is aligned across all functions, don't say yes to the new thing.
And what about yourselves? What's next for you? What's your big focus? Is there anything that you can share about the road ahead, just for anyone of your community that might be listening to our conversation today?
Well, I think we'll continue to expand in what we think of as our key pillars or business units of the business. So things that are moving quickly in DevOps, obviously with automated testing and IT operations and open source and digital creation. There's the entire world is built on software, right? And it continues to accelerate. So where we can reduce friction, take manual processes out of the picture, add more automation, just remove friction, make things more seamless for everybody in the development and operations side of the house. That's where we want to focus. Personally, I continue to look at how the offices of CTO can help more, doing more things with AI, Chat GPT, obviously, worldwide impact. I think this is just the very beginning. I consider that like the MVP, minimum viable product kind of version 1.0 of that flavor of thing. And that space race has just begun with now Google and Microsoft and Baidu and lots of others jumping on that. I think the nature of knowledge work itself is about to change permanently in a big way. So how do we think about that going forward? How does that affect current workflows, use cases, products, customers today, as well as, for us and others? How do you acquire in that kind of a space? How do you carve out a niche that's defensible when there's AI that's growing this rapidly and changing the way people think about work? That's a big one. I think another one is cloud acceleration. We see, I think this is an interesting year given the economy. We're seeing people continue to accelerate things to the cloud, but we're also seeing things come back from the cloud because it's expensive. So you have to balance, I think, workloads. If you have a good fit for the cloud, you really need to take advantage of elasticity or something else that the cloud uniquely provides. Do it. If you have something that's chugging along at a steady state rate, 24/7, 365, well, then you're paying a lot to rent a pretty standard type of capacity that you could bring on-prem. So I think we're going to see movement in both directions this year. So we look at lots of hybrid type solutions. What can work in the cloud and on-prem, or lets you split bits of the architecture between cloud and on-prem to get the best of both worlds. Those are the kind of things on my mind. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, it really does. And you mentioned ChatGPT there, and yes, we are in the very, very early stages. But when you look into the future, if you think Microsoft do make that big bet, if they put it in something like Office 365, suddenly it changes the game completely, doesn't it? In every single one of those applications, from creating a PowerPoint presentation in 10 different languages to global clients, to asking Excel to create the formula for you, and checking a white paper or a document or a tender document and tidying it up, making it look nicer. The possibilities are endless there, aren't they?
Oh, they're huge. Yeah, we're already using these kind of technologies in marketing for lots of purposes. I mean, you can use this to write emails, create web pages, draft presentations. On the sales side, people are using this to accelerate trials and proof of concepts, to write emails, to create proposals. On legal side, to draft contracts or review contracts. My AI team has already been using this constantly to learn, to have this teach them new concepts as well as run experiments. We're doing some work. One of my other teams is doing work with moving to a new cloud that we haven't used before. And they're using this technology every day in their own development workflow to go faster, to have it explain to them what are the options and provide pros and cons, and then show examples. So this is stuff that's almost overnight gone from never heard of it to part of my daily workflow. So game changer.
Yeah, really is. And I love chatting with you today. But before I let you go, there's also a real pressure on everyone today to be in this almost state of continuous learning. So the big question I want to ask you now that may help a lot of people listening is, where or how do you self-educate? How do you keep up to speed with these trends and the latest events in the tech and business landscape? Is there anything you can share around that?
Well, this might be unique to me. Hopefully this will help other people as well. But I have the benefit of where I sit in Perforce to see. So for example, I lead our architecture review board practice. So I see across the entire portfolio, as teams are expanding and facing new technical challenges, I get to see all the new tech stacks and approaches and offerings and products that are in the market. So that breadth, I think, really is helpful. It's a kind of a continuous learning because things never stand still in tech. There's always something new to see. We also have at Perforce what we call the Perforce Architecture Technology Team, which is a virtual team of our head lead technologists around the company that get together on a monthly basis and share what's new, what's interesting, what's exciting. So there's another way to keep up. With the AI team, I'm always seeing what's new with AI and reinforcement learning and transformers and things like how does ChatGPT work as we're trying to in learning and incorporating this into our own products. I also get to be on the M&A side. So I look at a large number of companies. You mentioned that we've acquired 11, but you kiss a lot of frogs and go through the dance a lot more than you actually have acquisitions land. So that's another way to see not just the tech side, but also business models, approaches, go-to-market motions and sales motions and ways to efficiently market operations, et cetera. So there's a business flavor as well as a technical flavor. And of course, I also run our technical due diligence. So I get to see a lot about how the things are built. And then finally, and this maybe is for techies only, but write some code on the side. I think it's important to keep your fingers in the technical bits. So you're not just a whiteboard architect or CTO, but you stay close enough to the practical side to know what's real and maybe what's not so real. I think that just helps to keep in touch across the spectrum from fingers on keyboard to big ideas.
And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about anything that we talked about today, because we have covered a lot, what's the best starting point for Perforce Software, to contact your team, find out more information, etc.? Where would you direct everyone to?
Certainly our website, blogs, LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I think it's a good place to start. Pre-COVID, I was at a lot of conferences all the time, speaking kind of around the world. Post-COVID, it's a little bit different, right? We're still ramping up in the world, but hopefully that'll come back again as well. And maybe you'll be able to see me somewhere doing a future talk. I like to look out and see what's coming. So I've been doing those kind of talks and keynotes for about the last 7-8 years. So those are always fun to do as well.
Fantastic. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today and talking about how tech leaders can better prepare when both acquiring or merging with another organization, but also our origin story, very similar to mine. And who would have thought that two guys chatting here in 2023, our careers would begin with Neil is cool and Rod is cool, typing on a computer. And here we are chatting away today on different sides of the pond. But just a big thank you, Rod, for sharing your story with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Neil. It's a fun conversation.
If you are a startup founder, a business leader that has been impacted by a merger and acquisition on either side of the fence, I'd love to hear more about your insights and your experiences. So please let me know. Maybe we've missed a few things out today. There's only so much we can cover in this short conversation, but I always ask at the end of every episode for you to share your insights and experiences. I don't just say that as a bit of a closure on a podcast. I genuinely want to learn more about it. That's why I commit to recording these interviews every single day. So if you do listen and anything resonated with you today, please let me know. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes, and I'll return again tomorrow with another guest and another fresh topic for you all. But yes, you guessed it. Thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.